Terry Buckley, I'm potato growing here just out of Mount Gambier, about 24 k's northwest of Mount Gambier. We're growing mostly processing potatoes on a sandy loam soil over clay in a 750mm rainfall. Fairly wet winters, some flooding, and then a very long dry summer. Nearly all of this area around here is a pasture and potato rotation if you're doing potatoes, which is sheep or cattle. The normal rotation for us around this area is a 5-year rotation, 1 year potatoes, 4 years of pasture. We try to maintain that as a minimum. What we've sort of learned about our soils here, that we have messed them up in the past on our own farm here, where we finished up with nematode issues, pink soft rot, verticillium, black dot, early dying, all of the regular symptoms. And an endeavour to counteract that, our answer seems to have been to preserve a lot more air in our soil. I'm of the belief that for all of those diseases, the predators of those seem to be versions of fungi, and fungi don't really like excessive land work and a lack of air in the soil. So for me, in this particular soil, I find that I think air in the soil is probably the biggest secret. So as a result, we've had to amend the cultivating practices. We run a lot more coarse material in our soil now that we don't chop up into fines. And that's then led on to where we've got wide tractors at 3.5 metre track settings. We've gone to a 6-row bed instead of 4 single rows. We've got rid of half the wheel tracks by having the wide tractors. We inter-row cultivate to a fairly substantial depth as our last operation to keep everything as loose and aerated as possible. And our soils, we can still test them, and they still have the various issues in them when you do a predictor PT test, but we don't seem to be having much issue with it in the growing crop or the finished product. So the process seems to be working at this stage. We believe that the variable rate centre is going to make an enormous difference to what we do. And once again, it's largely the air in the soil thing. We've got some of our circles are too dry, obviously, where we've had to cut the water back for wet areas. And then the wet areas are going anaerobic and drowning and having other issues with that. So the variable rate centre pivot's probably the biggest change and improvement in my potato growing career in evening up paddocks and dealing with issues like that. In recent times, we've started working with EM38 surveys, and that's the basis on which we set up our variable rate centre pivots. Normally done in 5 different zones from wet to dry, and at the same time we also have moisture monitoring equipment. Normally we'd only have 1 probe per circle, whereas now we put 2 probes, one in the wettest possible spot, one in the driest possible spot, so then we can check their levels at those points as well as the relationship between wet and dry, and it's working very, very well. Our initial aim with improving our soils has been to get our sustainability back on a sound footing, which I believe we've achieved. But as time goes on, we're going to do some more experiments, potentially with cover crops and less stock, and see if we can shorten the rotation up to perhaps 2 or 3 years. I'm not absolutely sure that's going to work at this point in time, but I'm going to have a try and see if by improving our soils and structure that we are able to do that. So it's probably the next thing that we wish to try. One of the other issues that there's some Department of Ag research over here that limits our production is the ability of these sandy soils to hold water. and I think the research suggested that you can only get 10% of the water out of your soil in a day. So ours just didn't hold enough soil water to get through a whole day when it's hot and sunny. So over time we've been able to increase the depth of organic matter and soil development, which I believe is improving considerably the water holding capacity, and therefore we have less issues now with hot days and extreme stress and those sort of issues. So in the process of reducing our soil tillage, and we've reduced our passes now from, it's about 7 passes of machines from pasture back to pasture, and in that process we've been able to, with the wide tractors, reduced our wheel tracks by half. We don't go disking up and back very much, so I think probably our energy consumption for land work it could be as little as half of what it once was. So we're very, very pleased with that, and then of course there's the benefits of not all that heavy gear driving over everything and doing some damage. So it's been a useful offshoot from the process. As far as where we've learned our information from, we're probably one of the first people around here to mess our soils up. So we're not white knights by any means, but we have then had to learn from overseas experts, largely out of the USA, as well as we've done a lot of reading and research in our own right on soils and soil health. So it's been a longish process, but we're better for having done it.